Parks and Recreation Commission meeting on Tuesday, July 28th, 2026. I'd like to call the meeting to order and start with a roll call.
Commissioner Axelrod. Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Vice Chair Way.
Here.
Chair Freeman.
Here.
Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Yes.
Commissioner Dang.
Yes.
And Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So now we'll open it up for public comments on non-agenda items. If you're here in person and would like to speak, please fill out a speaker card and hand it to the clerk. If you're joining us on Zoom for an item not on the agenda, just raise your hand and the clerk will call you. But due to a recent policy change, we will hear Zoom comments at the end of the agenda.
We currently have one speaker in person and no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Can we get Ustav G?
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Utsav Gupta. I serve as a commissioner on our Utilities Advisory Commission, though I'm here speaking on my personal capacity. And I'm also speaking on behalf of the University South and Professorville Neighborhood Association, of which Heritage Park is a part of. First, I want to thank each of you for your service to the community. I know how much time and commitment being on a commission is, so very much appreciate that. Until recently, Heritage Park had a beautiful wood-carved park sign. It was made locally. It was very specific. The artwork was very specific to that park, and it was in great condition as far as I could tell. I walked by that sign multiple times a day. I live right next to it. Unfortunately, the sign has been taken down and replaced with a sort of low-resolution printed board type of sign. Kind of more of a generic template, and kind of loses its unique character. We still fortunately have the wooden sign in Scott Park, which is also a beautiful park sign. You can see the difference visually in the public comment that I submitted earlier today. I put the two pictures side by side of what the new sign looks like and what the old sign used to look like. And it's a for those of us in our neighborhood, it's a fairly stark and surprising change for us. And we're hoping, I've talked to many neighbors about this, we're hoping this change is just a temporary one. Perhaps the sign has been just taken down to replenish and bring back. And I am hoping we still have the original beautiful hand-carved wooden sign. Our park signs are one of the small things that make Palo Alto such a great place to live. It's a unique thing. It brings in a lot of character. So as I noted in my public comment, I'd respectfully ask the commission and our Parks and Recreation staff to halt further replacements if that was the plan, to restore our beautiful, unique hand wood carved sign to Heritage Park and other parks where this might have happened, and to ensure that there's a public process moving forward pertaining to our park signs. So thank you again, each of you, for your service to our community.
Thank you, and thanks for your comments. I appreciate you're taking the time to bring that to our attention. So thank you. Okay, next item is we'll move to our first agenda, which is agenda changes, additions, and deletions. So before we get started, I'd like to let the commission know that to accommodate those who wish to attend the meeting in person or on Zoom, to comment on the agenda items, we'd like to move the ad hoc liaison and the department report to the end of the agenda. So, any objections to that?
Department
the department report and also the ad hoc liaison report. Move that to the ends of our agenda so that we give those folks who are here an opportunity. We can move the meeting a little bit faster along.
Okay, I think people like to hear I guess they can stay to hear the report. Okay, I guess. Usually staff report is at the beginning and then people,
Well, last time we moved it to the end, but I'll,
okay,
yeah.
all right.
Um, are there any other additional changes or deletions to today's agenda besides the one that just recommended? Okay. City council liaison's not here, so we will move to. Oh, yeah, next one is to the approval of our minutes for from June 23rd, 2026. To take a vote. Are there any changes to the meeting minutes from June 23rd, 2026? Guess that would be a no. So
Can I get a second for the motion to approve the minutes?
I didn't hear a motion to approve first. Is there a motion to approve? Did I get a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, for the motion to approve the minutes, Commissioner Brown,
Abstain.
Vice Chair Way,
Abstain.
Chair Freeman,
Approve.
Commissioner Kleinhaus,
Yes,
Commissioner Deng,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Okay, that'll be 402. Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to the first business item, which is the park improvement ordinance for improvement for the Arastadero Creek stabilization and utility line relocation and repair project, and consideration of the CEQA initial study mitigated negative declaration. So,
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. With us this evening, who will be delivering a report with his team is Aaron Perkins from our Utilities Department.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Aaron Perkins. I'm a Principal Engineer in the Utilities Department. I'll be presenting this evening on the Arastadero Creek Rehabilitation and Pipeline Relocation Project. Here's an overview of what I plan to cover during this presentation. For a background, we'll review how we got here in past presentations to this commission, where we're currently at in the permitting and CEQA process, an overview of the Arastadero Creek Rehabilitation and Utility Relocation work, and current project schedule, and finally staff's recommendation to this commission. We have supporting staff here in person and online. First, I'd like to introduce Sarah Robustelli, Division Manager of Open Space, who is here in person. And online, we have Michael Warner, who's a supervising park ranger and for the Arastadero Preserve. For our consultant, we have Chris Fang with WRA. He's a restoration engineer whose primary responsibility was the overall design and project management for this creek work. And Liv Nadir, she's with WRA, environmental planner who compiled and managed the CEQA documents. These staff members are here to support me in answering any questions this commission may have regarding this project. So here's an overview map of the project site and overall location of work. To give you a bearing on where we are in the preserve, the top right map shows Highway 280 at Page Mill Road. If you follow Page Mill Road down to Arastadero Road and come down Arastadero Road passing the preserve's parking lot, you will find Gate B entrance to the preserve. This will be the entrance used primarily by the city and contractors during this project. Focusing on the zoomed map and on the left, at the top left of the map is Arastadero Road at Gate B. The bottom right of the map is the Palo Alto Hills Country Club. So starting from Gate B, if you follow Juan Bautista Dianza Trail, you'll run directly into a Rasadera Lake and an existing potable water pump station. Following a Rasadera Trail from this location, you will enter the construction site. The creek work here is highlighted in the kind of cyan color, and the utility relocation work is highlighted in the red. There will be some additional minor grading work on Arasadero Trail to repair an existing culvert that has since been damaged from future storms. A little background on this project. The city was notified in March 2023 by a hiker of the potential exposed gas pipeline crossing the creek in Arasadero Preserve. After investigating this notice, it was determined the exposed pipeline was in fact an 8-inch gas pipeline feeding the Foothills community, and it was owned by the city of Palo Alto. During research of our records, it was also determined that an existing potable water pipeline and a wastewater pipeline lay parallel to the gas pipeline, just 5 to 10 feet from it, further into the bank of this picture. These utility lines are critical as a gas pipeline and the potable water pipeline are the only utility feeds to residents and businesses in the Palo Alto Foothills community. Damage caused to these lines could result in extended interruption of water and gas utility service to the foothills. Acting as quick as possible, the city received an emergency permit to place fill in the creek to protect the gas pipeline from damage caused by future storms. As part of the emergency permit, the Regional Water Quality Control Board required a permanent creek stabilization project and several alternatives to be evaluated for the permanent repair. The completion of the temporary repair project and future permanent project was presented to the Parks and Rec Commission at the March 25th, 2025 meeting. Permitting and CEQA status on this project. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So a permit application was submitted to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. The Corps is currently conducting a Section 7 consultation with CDFW, California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And we don't anticipate this to be completed until CDFW approves the project. In addition, a 404 permit will not be issued by the Corps until the Regional Water Quality Control Board provides final approval. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife, a permit application was submitted to them and previously approved. However, due to required changes by the Regional Water Quality Control Board, CDFW requested a second review of the project. So that second review of the project is ongoing right now. We're anticipating an end of August approval from CDFW. The city and the San Francisco Regional Water Quality Control Board worked through a collaborative process to agree on a project being presented this evening. Preliminary approval by the Water Board on the project was received in early June. We are anticipating receiving final approval by the end of August. For CEQA, a mitigative negative declaration was submitted for this project. The MND was posted for public comment on July 22nd, 2026, and will close on August 21st, 2026. At which time, once public comment closes, the city will provide responses to comments. A little bit about this project. The proposed project for Rasadera Creek is a process-based restoration project with the construction of step pools to assist in de-energizing the flow of water in the creek. This type of project minimizes the impact of the existing habitat by constructing various small structures, mainly built with hand tools, in strategic locations throughout the creek to promote buildup of upstream sediment and woody materials as they flow down the creek. This allows the creek to naturally fill itself over time and return the creek to an equilibrium point, which addresses the head cut that caused the pipeline to be exposed. Beginning from where the pipeline was exposed, approximately 1,200 foot upstream from Arasadero Lake, we will build 10 step pools over 225 feet. These pools will be made from the 36-inch boulders used during the temporary repair. The step pool will assist in dissipating energy in the creek and promote sediment collection in downstream locations. Downstream of these step pools will be 25 post-assisted log structures and 2 grade control log structures. These are typically constructed using hand tools to minimize the impact to the creek. These structures resist mobilization and retain sediment to encourage the creek to return to its natural equilibrium. A 10-inch diameter willow and a 12-inch coast live oak that are already undercut by the channel incision and are at risk of falling into the creek will be felled and used to construct these structures, in addition to seasoned eucalyptus trees from other parts of the preserve that have already been removed. An adaptive management plan was submitted to the Water Board, outlining the city's approach to monitoring and reporting of the step pool wood structures, in-stream habitat, revegetation monitoring, and the performance criteria for each. This plan is still under review by the Water Board, but it consists of a monitoring period of 10 years following the creek work and includes surveys of both the step pools and wood structures at years 1 through 4, and then 6, 8, and 10. Photo point monitoring at least twice per year, and in-stream habitat monitoring at years 1, 5, and 10. Revegetation monitoring will be performed at least twice per year for the first 2 years, or until 80% of total vegetation coverage is achieved. So the limit of disturbance is the total project area and is shown in the black line labeled LOD in this photo. This is the area that could be potentially disturbed during the project in one way or another. Any area outside of this limit is not part of the project and will not be directly impacted during construction. The areas outlined in red hash are the areas we expect clearing and grubbing to be performed. This will consist of removing of low-laying brush and allow access to the creek. Equipment will be used along the trail to bring logs into strategic locations along the creek, and tools will be used to drag the log from the trail to the creek. Additional understory impacts may occur, but no other trees are expected to be removed. Certain areas may need to remain clear in order to allow access for monitoring staff to evaluate the creek and place sediment fill if needed. These areas would be cleared for the remainder of the full monitoring period. Okay, the utility pipeline relocation work. The yellow line in this image is the new gas main to be installed on this project. The black line is the existing grade, and the area shown in green is the limit of the creek. The gas pipeline will be installed by excavating 2 locations on both sides of the creek. The contractor will basically drill a hole in the ground and follow the path of the yellow line at 17 feet below the bottom of the existing creek. The new pipe will be pulled in from one side to the other. Although vegetation clearing will still be required near the entry and exit pits, the installation method eliminates the need to excavate the creek and reduces the overall footprint on the project. Approximately 50 feet of the existing gas pipeline that was exposed was requested to be removed by the Water Board. The remaining gas pipe that will be abandoned in place and filled with the slurry mud. The water and wastewater utility relocation work. The yellow line in this image is the same gas line that we just reviewed in the previous slide. The blue and green lines are the potable water and wastewater collection pipelines. The new water and wastewater pipelines will be relocated to a Rasadero trail. The new pipelines will be installed by open trench. This relocation eliminates the 2 creek crossings and provides access for maintenance of the utility pipelines. These pipelines are critical as the water line is the only feed to the Foothills community, and the sewer line is the larger of 2 lines that collect waste from the Foothills and bring it to the treatment plant. Ensuring these pipelines remain in service is critical to the Foothills community and the city. Similar to the gas line, the 50-foot of existing water and wastewater pipelines at the exposed location are required to be removed, with the remaining pipelines to be abandoned and filled with a sand slurry mixture. As part of the abandonment of the existing wastewater line and removal of an existing manhole cone is required. An overview of our project schedule. CEQA public comment closed on August 21st, 2026, at which time we anticipate to respond to all comments by early September. We're anticipating construction permits by all permitting agencies by the end of September. This would provide sufficient time for us to competitively bid the creek rehabilitation work and the gas pipeline relocation work in time for a June 1st, 2027 construction date, and finishing by October 15th in the creek. Following the completion of the creek and the gas pipeline work, the water and wastewater work would be ready for June 1st, 2028 construction date. As required by the Regional Water Quality Control Board, a 10-year monitoring period is required. An adaptive management plan was submitted to the board for review and approval with their construction permit. The plan is still under review, so modification of the plan still may happen. The impacts to the preserve during construction will be minimized as much as possible. Construction hours will be Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Currently, trail access and use is anticipated to be fully open on the weekends and during construction. There may be instances that full trail closures will be required. If full trail closures are required, these closures will be coordinated closely with open space staff. All equipment and personnel working on this project will enter through Gate B from Rasadero Road. There will be no impacts to the Rasadero Preserve parking lot. Large vehicles will be escorted from Gate B to the construction site. A Rasadero trail will be closed during construction Monday through Friday. Trail close signs with detour routes will be posted at Acorn Trail and the pump station. Additional trail closure information will be posted on Open Spaces webpage and Utilities Project webpage. The construction stockpile area will be adjacent to the creek and will be the same location as the stockpile area used for the temporary repair. There will be several project meetings for this project, starting with the pre-construction meeting prior to the start of construction, weekly meetings with project team, and daily meetings with construction staff. Each meeting is an opportunity to provide progress updates on the project and ensure all environmental mitigation measures are being followed. A biological monitor will be assigned to the project during construction. So the recommendation before you today is for this commission to recommend the city council adopt the park improvement ordinance and recommend the city council approve the mitigative negative declaration. A QR code is provided with project information. Project information will be updated as updates occur. Thank you for your time and allowing me to present this project, and we can open up for questions.
Thank you and staff for the project, for the excellent presentation and also the thorough supporting material, which I've read maybe 2 or 3 times to try and get a really good handle behind it. But also remember the presentation that you guys did back in, I think in March of 2025. So it's a very technically complex project involving, I guess, public safety, essential utility services, creek restoration, trail access, and the protection of sensitive parkland. So it's great that you're coming to us for this. So I'd like to, before we move to public comments, see if there's any members of the commission that have any clarifying questions that they would like to ask. Commissioner Kleinhouse.
What is slurry, mud and slurry and all those things that you mentioned?
Yeah, so filled with sand slurry is basically a mixture of sand and water and a little bit of cement. It's like a low strength cement, so it can be easily dug through, but you pump it into pipes so that way over time pipes do not collapse and therefore create divots in the above surface. So if you abandon a pipe in place, you fill it with slurry mixture to hold that void.
Sorry. Gate B, that will be used for trucks to come in and out, and any plans for any storage or anything in that parking lot that utilities used in the past, but now it's not being used.
Yeah, all material is planned to be stored. Material for the project will be planned to be stored at the project site. Some things that may be there is like the vehicles during the day, but then those will be removed at the end of the evening.
What's the end of day? Like what time is work stopping?
Right now, the work duration is Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay. I know the rangers probably know this, but there's a group of deer that uses that wetland right next to the parking lots. Do you have any specific mitigations for that?
I don't have any specific mitigations for that. Like we will have a biologist assigned to this project who will help in making sure that we comply with all of the biological requirements of the habitat out there. That includes revegetation and animals.
Okay. I have questions, but I don't know if you want to ask them now or later. I have questions about the project, but they can be later, I guess.
Anyone else for clarifying questions? Okay, so you mentioned that, I think this came up in the meeting of March 2025, that it was brought to the attention of staff about the exposed pipeline back in 2023. Do you know how long that line had been exposed? I guess before it was reported.
So as part of the federal requirements to operate and maintain a gas pipeline, those pipelines, we have a leak survey program, and that pipeline was leak surveyed the April-May timeframe before in 2022, and there was no notice of that pipeline being exposed.
Okay. And I believe also you indicated that the new pipeline will be installed, but the existing pipeline will remain. And the new pipeline is going to be buried a lot deeper than where it exists now, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. The existing pipeline is about 4 feet deep, and that was what was exposed in that picture. The new pipeline will be drilled in at 17 feet below the creek. And the new pipeline is about 225 foot in length. The water board has required us to remove the 50 foot that is top of bank to top of bank. So that leaves approximately 175 feet. of existing pipeline that will be abandoned in place outside of the top of bank.
So the background section described an exposed 8-inch gas pipeline, right? And then threatened a 16-inch water and wastewater pipeline. And then later the report, I think, describes phase 2 is relocating an 18-inch water pipeline and a 10-inch wastewater pipeline. Could you clarify the size, I guess, of the existing pipelines and whether or not the report is referring to a different pipeline segment?
Eric, are you able to bring up the slides? I think that may help the commission visualize some of this.
Yeah, the discrepancy between sizes was an error.
Oh, it was. Okay.
It was an error, yeah.
Okay.
It's an 18-inch water and a 10-inch sewer.
All right. And the other question was that CEQA, you mentioned that there's many comments and that's going to be open until August 21st. What's been the nature, I guess, I guess you've been reviewing those since the comments have been out there. Has there been any, I guess, negative comments, questions that has caused you guys to kind of take pause on anything?
So I haven't seen any comments yet. It's only been, I think, a week or so since it's
Okay.
been posted. But I have not seen any comments yet come back.
Okay, Commissioner Kleinhouse.
Can you go back to slide 5? I think that was 5. Maybe it was 6. Yeah, okay. So can you show here the work in the creek channel is that entire area? What is the green spot first? What is that?
So the green spot is a confluence of the Arasadero Lake.
Right. And why is it highlighted?
Because there will be some work there to place the last PAL, the post-assisted log structure, and plant with willows.
Okay. So the idea is to stop sedimentation from going into the lake?
Well, yeah, and that's what's happening right now. I mean, that channel is so incised right now that all the sedimentation is ending up in the lake right now.
Right.
And so the idea is to put these post-assisted log structures, 25 of them upstream of the lake, to help catch a lot of that sediment and allow the creek to kind of naturally build itself back up.
Okay. So, and then the work in the creek goes between this little green spot all the way up to this entire area that is marked. It's hard to tell if you're not an engineer, and I'm not, what is happening where. And I'm trying to figure out where work is happening in the channel, where it's happening between the channel and the trail. And that includes temporary and permanent changes. So if you have, and like where are you going to plant restoration, like the green area, obviously that was an answer, partial answer. So what is going to remain undisturbed? A little more information here. Like what are we looking at?
Okay, so here's the creek design. Here's the upper part of the creek design. Over to your left, you can see the utility lines that cross the creek. That was the gas line that was exposed. Okay. From there, we had built a temporary kind of place fill and kind of a pool structure there. We will be kind of taking that apart and reusing that rock to build out these 10 step pools. And those are showing basically starting from where the pipeline got exposed all the way down about 225 feet. Now from there is where we will begin the post-assisted log structures. And those will continue at strategic places in the creek to promote sediment buildup and also to assist the creek in kind of naturally meandering itself. Maybe possibly eroding out one portion of the side of the bank to promote some of that sediment into the creek. And then this design over here to the right is kind of what one of those step pools would kind of look like. If you go to the next slide. The next slide continues basically those post-assisted log structures all the way down the creek. There's also a profile view of kind of what this is going to look like once it's completed. But if you go to the next slides, please. So this is the vegetation clearing that you had recently seen. Next. And then here's the revegetation plan. So this is not finished yet. We are still working on 90% designs. But here you can see these are the plans for reseeding areas that we're going to plan to reseed, areas that we're going to put willow stakes in. And then there's another slide. Go down. Oops. Yeah. This highlighted yellow area is where we plan to place trees that are going to replace the two that we took down on the project. But again, this is not a final design yet for this revegetation plan.
Thank you. Do you have a planting palette for the revegetation, or is that going to be public at some point, or is that just something that you just expect to plant
Yeah,
what's already there?
the planting palette that you say, like the seed mixture and all of that, like we haven't finalized that yet. That'll be something we work out with open space and our biologists for the area and make sure that we get all the right native plants in there.
Okay. I had a few other questions about that, but let me see. We can go, I can ask more questions later, but
Okay.
I had sequel questions.
Okay. Vice Chair.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for the great comprehensive presentation, and since March last year, it's a lot more clarity. And Estudio Preserve is our Palato ecological treasure. I have some general questions. So during the construction, you have workday construction. How will the trail users be impacted? Are they still going to use the trail during weekends or not?
So the plan is to leave the trail open for weekends and holidays when we are not working. There may be instances where we get into like the water and wastewater utility work that requires open trenching in the trail, that the trail may not be able to be open for a limited amount of time. But the plan here is to leave the trail open as much as possible on the weekends.
Excellent. Yeah, presume you have clear communications as you mentioned, have signs, etc. So will the trail be restored to the current condition or improved after this construction long halt?
Yeah, the trail will be returned to definitely at least its current condition. There is a portion of this project that actually enhances the trail where one of the culverts have kind of washed itself out, and part of this project is to fix that section of the trail.
Great. Has the project also been designed to withstand more frequent extreme storm due to climate change? As you see, last few years we have a lot of storms over here, maybe delay the projects, etc., or risk assessments, etc.
Yeah, so the design of the creek has kind of been a real collaborative process with the Regional Water Quality Control Board, where all of this has been discussed. So that is something I know that Chris from WRA has definitely looked at and has discussed with the water board during the design phase.
Yeah, I really appreciate this nature-based restoration technique, including willow planting and 10-year monitoring. But how do you measure the success of creek restoration over the 10 years? Like every other year, you have a, measuring method, a score.
Yeah, so the rock, the step pools and the post-assisted log structures will be, basically observed and GPS surveyed. The creek will be GPS surveyed years 1 through 4, and then 6, 8, and 10. The habitat monitoring will happen at years 1, 5, and 10, and they'll be documented and reported on at those years. This will again be a collaborative process between us and the permitting agencies to make sure that we're in fact meeting our adaptive management plan and their expectations.
Excellent. Final question. I presume the commission will receive periodical update during these 10 years. Is it like every year you plan to come to update your project?
Yes, I will work with open space staff to find an interval that works.
Excellent. Yeah. Great work. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Dane for clarifying question.
Thank you for the presentation. It's great to see this project back with clearer timeline and the project details. I have a budget question. Does the 5.9 million budget include the 10-year monitoring period and long-term maintenance, or it is primarily for design and construction?
That does include the 10-year monitoring.
Does it include?
Yes.
Thank you. And just one follow-up. If the cost exceeds the budget, what is the city's contingency plan?
Well, utilities will have to find the money.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to public comments.
There are no public comments or hands raised on Zoom at this time.
Okay, let's go back to the commission for any general questions, and try and limit your time to at least 3 minutes, and we can always circle back if you need more time. We'll start with Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the wonderful presentation. Following up on Commissioner Dang's question regarding the budget or the funding for this, because it's utilities, would that money come from the rate making process to fund the capital projects rather than the general fund?
Yes, this is coming from the capital budget, utilities capital budget.
And that goes into designing the rates for, in this case,
It does.
gas. Okay, great, that's helpful. I think it was said earlier, like, we're not engineers, so I appreciate you making it as simple as possible for us to understand. And one thing I do understand is working with other government agencies, and that was a lot of parties that you have to work alongside with. And given the sensitivity of both the pipeline itself as well as the environment, I think noticing it from 2023 to the schedule that you outlined is very impressive in government time. So thank you for working very swiftly to get this project off the ground while maintaining transparency and community education. Kind of moving forward for hikers who might notice a pipe, what's the best way to report that to utilities?
Yeah, so typically in these open space areas where a lot of hikers are there, you will see pipeline markers, and usually those are delineated by the individual color of the pipeline. So yellow being gas, blue being water, green being wastewater, red electric. Those pipeline markers have identification on them, both the city's logo as well as an emergency contact number that goes straight to the utilities dispatch.
Okay, great. That's very helpful. All right, that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Vice Chair, general questions.
Ask all my general questions just now. I think I'm done. Thank you. Great
Okay.
work. Really impressive.
Commissioner Kleinhoff, you have additional questions?
I had a few more. This is about CEQA. So CEQA basically looks or expects mitigation for species that are sensitive or vulnerable and listed. But this is a nature preserve, and there is a lot of animals there that are not listed as endangered, but they're still living there, and it's their habitat. And the amount of traffic and other activities can really disrupt them. So I was wondering if you have any additional mitigations or best practices for all these other animals, whether it's a newt or a deer, all the spectrum, or even bats at night.
Yeah, so WRA, we've been working with WRA since the temporary repair for this area, so they're very familiar with this area. They put together a biological resource technical report, which was submitted to the permitting agencies, which identified a lot of these species There will be, as part of the project, a biological monitor assigned to the project, which will include training and identification of the things that staff should be looking for, before they get into equipment, before they arrive at the job site, things to be aware of as they're driving along trails and walking around trails. So there will be training at these pre-construction meetings for staff on things that they should look for.
And this report is not part of the documents that
This-
are,
Yeah, the biological resource technical report was not part of the staff report documents, no.
no, but is it part of the CEQA documents?
I don't believe it was part of the CEQA documents. I think Liv is online if she wants to comment on that.
Yes, it was an appendix to the CEQA document.
Okay. So I saw that then. Okay, my other questions are about bats and about nesting birds. June still has nesting birds and could have maternity roosts for bats. And so how do you, and there are a lot of cavities in that area. I mean, I know it well. I hike there a lot, so I know the area. There's a lot of trees. There's a lot of nooks and crevices that animals breed in along the riparian corridor. How do you, even if, and the mitigation is, looks at removing the trees. So if you're not removing the tree, no mitigation? That I guess my question is, I'll read my question on the bats. For the bats, the construction will begin during the bat maternity season, while mitigation measures focus primarily on the 2 trees proposed for removal. So if there are potential maternity roosts in trees that are not being removed, but they're right next to a tree or vegetation work, how are there any mitigations to minimize disturbance to these maternity colonies beyond the 2 trees that are going to be removed?
Right. So just like bats and just like birds out there that possibly could be nesting at this time, a biologist will be out there ahead of us and we'll do a full survey prior to us going out there and clearing vegetation or removing trees. At that time, if there are nests that are found, then buffer zones will be placed around that, whether that's a 50-foot buffer zone or a 1,000-foot buffer zone, depending on the species.
So I guess my confusion perhaps is that that's not what the mitigation says. So you might want to review whether the mitigation applies only to the 2 trees that are being removed or to everything around them as well. So just, I don't have time to open the MND right now and look at it, but please make sure that the surveys for bats or for nesting birds are not limited to what happens to those 2 trees.
Understood.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ding? Okay, Commissioner Smith.
Good job. Thank you very much. Big project.
Thank you.
Okay, I just have one question regarding going back to the Commissioner Kleinhouse had talked about the staging area and protection park resources. You mentioned that the report states that construction workers and equipment will use staging area near Pier 8B and that a lay down yard will be located adjacent. Could you identify the approximate size, I guess, and precise location of the staging and lay down areas? And then lastly, what protective measures will be required to prevent damage to surrounding vegetation, such as, as Commissioner Kleinhouse talked about, wildlife habitat, drainage area, trail surface, and equipment. You mentioned that trucks would be removed, but there would be other supplies and so forth that would still stay there, right, for an extended period of time as they're being used. And then you're going to have trucks going back and forth. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I mean, we will be storing, rock and cobble and different things like that for the creek there, logs. There might even be some equipment being stored there, just to be able to move logs around the trail. As far as the size of it goes, I don't have that off the top of my head. Chris is online. I'm not sure if he has kind of an approximate.
That wasn't displayed on your map, right? Any of the,
It is. Um,
On the it's on the plans, but I don't have a specific number handy right now.
So kind of that hashed in area from the trail to the creek edge. On this slide is that area.
Can you point that out again? I see. Where? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that area right there. That's the laydown site area that was used for the temporary repair, and that'll be used again for staging, material.
So you're gonna have equipment there from the start of the project to the end. So there'll be equipment
So it's
periodically being moved and relocated, but generally on the same tract of land, I guess, where it's not.
correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's. No, Commissioner Kleinhaus.
I know this is not part of the project, and you'll probably say that this is impossible, but there are quite a lot of invasive shrubs along the creek that could be removed in this as you go, potentially. And the bigger concern for me is the area near Gate B, which was previously, the wetlands were somewhat filled, part of them. There was a fire recently, and the roads that fire department put through to stop the fire from spreading went through that wetland and into the hills, which is less impactful in that location. I don't know if there's any way to fix some of that mess that was created there over the last 10 years or so. And utilities, the bearing of the electricity, that was part of why this happened. And thank you for burying the last pieces over there by the lake. Okay, but I don't know if there's a way to fix some of that since utilities was the reason why some of that wetland was messed up. And then with the fire, more recently, fire as well. So, staff, maybe you want to look into that. Thank you.
We'll look into that. We'll definitely fix the section of trail that we are going to use back and forth on this project. Absolutely.
Okay, again, thanks for the presentation and the considerable amount of work that went into this. That will be going into this project, but just the quality of the presentation, and the report, I think, was very well done. Hopefully, those are the types of reports that we can have coming before us, which makes it a lot easier for us to kind of digest the material and be able to ask them really good clarifying and general questions. So again, thank you again for putting that together. Okay, well, the action item on this, okay.
Yes, Eric's pulling up the recommendation right now.
Okay.
It's up, dude. You're not, or
Okay, so we're going to go forward and vote on that. What do you want to?
Well, we need a motion and a second, and then we'll roll call.
Okay, can I get someone to make a motion?
I move.
Okay, can I get a second?
I can second.
Okay, thank you. Well, I have a motion and we have a second. Can we go ahead and have a vote, please?
okey doke. Okay, Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wei,
Yes.
Chair Freeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Kleinhaus,
Yes, and I want to say I will probably submit some comments.
Okay. Commissioner Day
Yes.
and Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Okay. That is a 6-0 vote. Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay,
Thanks very much.
thank you. Okay, we'll move to item number 4, which is the park improvement plan. Excuse me.
I think we.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Did I mispronounce that one? Okay. This is the information updates on the, I'm sorry, this is the park improvement ordinance for the improvement to for Russell.
That's what we just did.
Okay. Yeah, okay, got it.
Chair, it's item number 5, informational update on ad hoc nature connectivity.
Looking back to my
efforts.
notes, yes.
Yes.
Just
Right.
moving.
So how do we do this? I just say next slide or Commissioner Way and I?
Yeah, you can confuse it.
Okay. All right. So the nature connectivity ad hoc, we started working on that, Commissioner Way and I, and wanted to provide an update on where we are and where we're going next. So the goal of the nature connectivity ad hoc, and this is from from our work plan, is to strengthen biodiversity and pollinator connectivity across the Palo Alto Park system, consistent with the Palo Alto Comprehensive Plan, Park and Recreation Strategic Plan, and the SCAP, and informed by regional best practices. So we have a little picture of best practices. Next. So why nature connectivity? We thought it might be good to just give a little bit of introduction. Why even bother? So one of the things about biodiversity, which is really the inclusion of all the different things that live together with us in this area, is that natural areas and parks, they cannot sustain biodiversity in isolation. We need to connect the habitat to allow wildlife to move, to find food, to find shelter, to find mates, and to adapt to climate change. And so parks and creeks and gardens and green space can form this ecological network that connects the baylands, our neighborhoods, and our foothills, and combine it together. And this has been recognized by the city, and we'll get to that. So next, please. Next. Yeah, thanks. So the work plan objectives, this comes from our work plan, and what the bold one is what we're already doing, is review existing Palo Alto policies and plans, evaluate regional best practices, and then later develop guidelines for incorporating native plants in parklands, new developments, and ongoing maintenance of city properties, look at program level policy recommendations for projects, and emphasize on locally native and pollinators supported plant standards and habitat continuity to reduce ecological barriers and to identify opportunities for alignment with related city efforts. So that's a big task and we're working on it, but next, thank you. So why locally native plants are such a so central to this? And I think it's because we need to realize that nature is not just a collection of species, it's the interactions between them, a co-evolved network of relationships. And the native plants are the basis of their local ecosystem food webs. There are many species that evolved together and can only eat a certain plant that grew here native, and they cannot necessarily eat something that came from somewhere else. So you might see a caterpillar that will eventually become a butterfly. But if it doesn't have the locally native plants, it just doesn't have food. And so if we, so these ecological food webs, if we plant the locally native plants, we support all stages of species life cycle, not just the adults, which we see a butterfly going to a flower, that's the adult, but the caterpillar needs those specific plants. And so when appropriately selected and established, locally native plants require actually less irrigation. That's another thing people rarely recognize, less fertilizers, and they're quite adapted to local seasons and climate. And so there is many reasons to use locally native plants. Next. So one of the things that we thought was important to mention also is that Mayor Vinker took the monarch pledge, the monarch butterfly, and you have a picture here of a monarch butterfly of its caterpillar. And this is a species that can only eat milkweed species. And if there's no milkweed, the caterpillars cannot grow. And the picture of the fence, I thought this was interesting because you can see one flower by the corner. It's a white flower. That's a milkweed. It's a local species, narrow-leaf milkweed. And you can see the butterfly. This is my street. That's the only place on our street other than my garden that somebody planted these narrow-leaf milkweeds. And you can see the butterfly attracted to that. You don't need a big patch. You just need some. And it makes a big difference. So Mayor Vinker took the pledge, which commits us to undertake actions to support monarchs and other pollinators. So let's go there. Next. So this is just a review that we have already in the city, planning efforts that identify the nature connectivity and native plants as a goal. The first one is the City of Palo Alto Comprehensive Plan 2030. It was done in 2017, and it has in its vision the natural environment, Chapter 4, and Chapter 4 includes policies and programs and so on. So next, please. So the vision of the comprehensive plan natural environment element is to respect and manage natural resources. It includes all our different areas, foothills, baylands, creeks, park, urban forest, wildlife, and open space. And even in built up areas, the network of parks will provide access to nature and an urban forest that provide ecological and health benefits. So these are actually the vision, or this is just copied from our general plan. We have goal to protect, conserve, and enhance Palo Alto's citywide system of open space and including connected and accessible natural and urban habitats, ecosystem, natural resources. Again, talking about the beauty, the nature, the enjoyment, and the source of public health that nature brings to us. Next. So then if we go to the next step from the comprehensive plan is the Palo Alto Parks, Trails, Natural Open Space and Recreation Master Plan. Next. And this plan actually has 8, I think, principles, which we have mentioned several times in discussion of various projects that we've looked at over the years. But one of them is nature. And the definition of this principle is interconnects native species and habitat corridors and creates opportunities to learn and interact with nature. Next. The natural connectivity is interesting because we have maps both in the comprehensive plan and in the parks plan, same map, that actually identifies potential locations to create those connectivity. Most of them are along roads. And the idea is that the urban forest can actually, and the park system can actually create this infrastructure, this matrix or lattice that we can use to bring this natural connectivity to life. And so we have already some policies and even a map that support it. Next. The master plan has goal 4 to protect natural habitat and integrate nature, natural ecosystem, and ecological principles throughout Palo Alto. And there are 3 policies to support it. I can read them, but basically, again, to connect natural areas, open space, creeks, vegetated areas, to promote and protect and expand habitat, and to identify strategies and opportunities to expand native trees and plantings in the urban parks. So again, we have a pretty sound basis here. Next. And it's interesting because our parks master plan includes projects, and this one says integrate nature into urban parks. And it really looks at converting areas in parks, usually turf that is not used for recreation, into native plantings. And now that we're looking forward to having to retire non-functional turf and not irrigate it anymore, this really comes to play. So how can we create native plantings, riparian grasslands, oak woodlands, or other more specific targeted habitat planting if we want something for the monarchs, for example, or other butterflies, hummingbirds, other animals. I don't think we're looking to plant for the coyotes, but we are looking to plant for pollinators and butterflies and species that are actually very beneficial and beautiful. Next. So our next plan that we reviewed also is the Palo Alto Sustainability and Climate Action Plan. We all have a great interest in that. Our city has been very devoted to sustainability and climate action, and this plan, continue please, includes a lot of actions, and it has a key actions to restore and enhance biodiversity. And it says enhance pollinator habitat by including native plants and pollinator-friendly plant landscaping in all parks improvement projects when feasible. Those when feasible, in many cases, it kind of defeats the purpose, but this is here, and I know staff is doing some of that. So there is to evaluate and modify plant pellet selection to maximum biodiversity and soil health, adapt to changing climate, incorporate buffers for existing natural ecosystems, and coordinate implementation with the other plans that we already reviewed, some of them, and there's more. And there are key performance indicator to plant native plants on city properties and new landscaping projects to measure biodiversity. So the idea is that you find out that the native plants give you an indication of how well biodiversity is doing. And this is a new, relatively new installed native plant garden in, Sarah, help me here. Which park?
Oh, Bowden Park.
Yeah, there we go. So that's one, this is one of those action that goes into the tally or the reporting about the ESCAP. Next. And then we have the Green Stormwater Infrastructure Plan. That's another one that we looked at. And next. The Green Stormwater Infrastructure Plan really looks to prevent stormwater, especially if it's polluted, from flowing into the bay or impacting our streams. It's really, really important. It integrates nature-based stormwater features to improve water quality, reduce flooding, and increase climate resilience. GSI uses a lot of vegetation, and they use permeable landscape to allow more natural hydrology. But the enhanced wildlife habitat is mentioned, but there is no actual direction on how to do it. So habitat, as I say, it's an identified benefit, but the plan doesn't require planting locally native plants or provide any detailed guidance on how to enhance the wildlife habitat value with this plan. Next. And of course, the Urban Forest Master Plan, which was adopted in 2015, and then there have been revisions over time. Next. And the urban forest master plan, the vision is trees, vegetation, soil, water, and wildlife have value and interdependence attributes. So we need to care for them as a whole. Urban forest should be contiguous, complex, and resilient. And there is some directions about how to plant trees. And for example, no tree species may exceed 10% of the population. The idea, which is somewhat of a theory, is that it reduces vulnerability to pests and disease. But in parks, the urban forest master plan says you can relax this requirement and maintain a preference for native species. And parks should make most of the opportunity, it also says that, to plant species rich in wildlife benefits. Next. So this is kind of a really high overview of what Palo Alto has in our policies and programs and vision for Palo Alto. We looked at a lot of other cities and what they do. And there are not that many that actually include biodiversity as part of their vision and culture. There are many that have urban forest master plans. Usually they focus on canopy, the tree health, climate resilience, equity, risk management, all very important, but biodiversity and supporting the ecosystems is not always part of that. There are some, including Palo Alto, Mountain View, Oakland, East Palo Alto, which explicitly address native species, wildlife, and habitat and biodiversity. There are more than these. I just give some examples here. There's relatively few cities that have actually biodiversity planning or measuring framework. Mountain View just adopted their biodiversity and urban forest master plan, the San Francisco biodiversity guidelines, and LA has a biodiversity index and baseline report. There's even fewer cities that have measurable or enforceable native plants, landscaping, habitat, or development standard. And Encinitas is a good example of that, but that was the only one we found that actually has an ordinance to address biodiversity and plantings. And one thing that is interesting and difficult to resolve is the definitions vary considerably. So you can have different definitions in different documents, what is a native, what is locally native, what is regionally native, what is functional species, climate adapted species, and even what habitat and biodiversity actually mean. So that means that we will have to have our own definition, which is the best of them all. Next. So as we've seen, Palo Alto has an excellent foundation. We have adopted plans and policies that support habitat connectivity, native plants, pollinator habitat, and biodiversity. We have extensive natural assets, including parks and open space, the urban forest, native oaks, creeks, the foothills, and the baylands, more than many. We have existing inventories and resources like the Great Oak Count. We have city expertise in parks and open space, urban forestry, sustainability. We have strong nonprofit partnerships and community-led projects with like environmental volunteers, grassroots ecology, Save the Bay, Canopy, and that Primrose Way pollinator garden. So we have a lot of, we have a good basis. We also have the kind of policies that may not address biodiversity directly, but still protect it, like the bird-friendly design and dark sky ordinances that were adopted by City Council recently. And the SCAP, which has a good foundation for reporting and for measuring and to have actually monitoring of what's happening. So we actually are in a good spot and could explore how to put it all together because we have a lot of different plans, but there is no official or kind of guideline that put it all together. Next. So this is just a little more about what city is doing. That is also true for Palo Alto. It's the community partnerships. So we see partnerships throughout the region that work with volunteers, to restore and maintain native habitat, remove invasive species, planting native species, etc., create pollinator gardens, steward creeks and shorelines and parks and open space, sometimes propagate native plants and collect seeds. There are people who care for young street trees, there's a word missing there, and park trees, and support and many organizations that support environmental education and nature-based activities, which is pretty exceptional, the wealth that we have. I mean, many cities have some of these. We have most of them. Next. So next steps, what are we doing? So we've done more or less with existing Palo Alto policies and plans. If anybody has comments and thinks we should add to that, please, we will consider. And evaluate regional best practices, which we just gave you a very, like the edge of all the work we've done. And next is the rest of the assignment, which is to develop guidelines for incorporating native plants in parkland, new developments, ongoing maintenance of city properties, to propose program level policy recommendations, to integrate into park planning and capital projects with emphasis on locally native and pollinator supportive plant standards and habitat continuity, reduce ecological barriers, although I think that kind of falls in the previous ones, and identify opportunities for alignment with related city efforts, which we already started looking at. If you have any questions, we are here to answer.
Okay, good job. Good job. And good presentation. It's nice to know what's going on. It just sort of reemphasizes, I think, why we do what we do here. And basically, we're stewards of trying to do that balance between nature and providing recreational activities. I think let's do a kind of a different thing here before jumping to a clarification, in case there are members of the public who might be on the phone or in person. We can go ahead and jump there first, and then we'll come back to the commission for any general questions or clarifying questions.
Yeah, sounds good. We have one public comment in person and two via Zoom.
Okay, let's go for it.
So the first person is Dr. Tracy F.
Sorry. Our native plants have co-evolved with our insects and provide food for our entire ecosystem. Are you not seeing the slides? Sorry, are we stopping my timer? I couldn't quite hear what you said. Oh, it looks like he has it from where I see it, but I guess it's not up there, so. Okay.
Okay.
Our native plants have co-evolved with our insects and they provide food for our entire ecosystem. Just as monarchs need milkweed to reproduce, our other butterflies, moths, and caterpillars need their specific plants that they co-evolved with in order to reproduce. It's very good. If we go up a rung on the food chain, we can look at the birds and see the importance of this. 90% of our birds feed their babies caterpillars. A little 1-ounce chickadee requires 6,000 caterpillars for its little nestlings to leave the nest. 96% of food, there's 96% less food available in non-native habitats. And according to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, we've lost 1 in 4 of our birds since the 1970s. That's over 3 billion birds. Our natural areas are no longer able to just support them. We have like 45 million acres of lawn. 41% of our land is in agriculture. And 54% is in urban sprawl, basically. So what can we do? Together, we can bring back these butterflies, pollinators, and birds by growing our locally native plants to feed them. And this chart shows in green Bay Area natives, and in red Bay Area, typically used Bay Area non-natives. And the height of the bars shows the number of species of caterpillars that they can support. So the number of butterflies that could reproduce there. And you can see there's going to be a vast difference to our birds by the number of caterpillars that will be available to them. And I'd just like to ask that you support native plantings, locally native plantings, and bring back our birds and butterflies, and that we keep them for the next generations. Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Okay, up next we have Linda R. via Zoom. Linda, can you hear us?
I'm Linda Ruthrup, and I'm with the local chapter of the California Native Plant Society. Some people think that you achieve biodiversity by planting a lot of different plants and trees, but that's not how it works. It's about selecting plants and trees that support all of the other life in the local ecosystem. Biodiversity is all about timing and relationships. The flowers that open just when the new bees that pollinate them emerge from the ground. The bush that leaps out with tender new growth just when the butterfly lays the eggs of her caterpillars that need new leaves to eat and grow. It's the butterfly that seeks and finds the specific species of plant that she needs for her eggs. So when her babies hatch, the plant has the chemical makeup they need to grow and develop into butterflies. Additionally, 96% of land-dwelling birds feed their babies caterpillars and insects. Even if the adults eat seeds, the babies will not develop without the high protein that the caterpillars and insects provide. If you want birds, you must have caterpillars. If you want caterpillars and butterflies, you must have the correct plant that species of butterfly needs for their caterpillar babies to eat. You cannot bring species from other areas and expect them to fit neatly into this web of life. The chemistry of the plant or the timing of its growth and blooming will be off. If you want biodiversity, you must plant the species that have co-evolved with the rest of the local ecosystem over thousands of years. We ask that you develop a plant palette that is limited to local native plants. And this is how you can encourage biodiversity in your city. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Rebecca N.
Hi, thank you so much for your time today. I have a complaint. I at Heritage Park, we had a really nice sign. Like a lot of things in Palo Alto are really nice.
This would have to be regarding the agenda item 5. We've
Oh,
already
okay.
passed. So we have virtual
Oh.
public comments after this. If you
Oh,
want to
okay,
wait
I
around to
see.
the end of it all.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Thank you.
Right.
That concludes the comments for this item.
Okay, I want to thank the speakers that added value to our agenda item. Thank you very much for your comments. I will now move to our commissioners, starting with Commissioner Smith. Any general questions as it relates to this agenda item?
I don't have any at this time.
Okay, great. Commissioner Dang.
Great presentation, really enjoyed it. Yeah, I'm just curious. how we can connect the green,
How we connect what?
the greenlands, like the parks and the open space.
That's our, that's our task for continuing this work. Commissioner Way and I are starting to look at those next steps and how to do that.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Vice Chair.
Thanks, Chair. So in slides 22, you mentioned about a few cities have explicit biodiversity planning measurements, even ordinance. Is there any example you can share us a bit more, whether it's LA, San Francisco, or Mountain View? They have specific ordinance which we can apply to us so we can learn best practices from.
I think Encinitas is interesting. If we can find yeah, it's the last slide. There are a few others, but go further to the last one that was not, yeah, go all the way to the last one on your deck. We did not present this before. Continue. Yeah. So there are different approaches. Some of them only look at this part of the city. Some of them only look at a certain butterfly, and maybe we can look at one other after this. But this one, Encinitas, is interesting because they just adopted an ordinance that says that the city will plant 100% of the landscaped areas in the city must be Southern California native species. And for projects, they have 50, like if a developer has a project, 50%. And they use an app called Calscape to help people find the right species. However, they do not include street trees. So just wanted to say that, so one of the biggest connectivity opportunities is the city trees, but they do not include that. But they do include native species of shrubs and plants and trees in parks and open spaces that they have, and all the other city, like if you do a project at City Hall, you'd have to plant native plants. I don't know which one is the one from San Francisco, but it's interesting. Yeah, it's if you go to 29 and then 30, we can go briefly through what they're doing. So can you show 29? One more. Yeah. So in San Francisco, they have biodiversity guidelines, and again, they prioritize locally native plants, and they help people find it. So you can find the right plant with this app that is really looking at the originally native plants of San Francisco. So not even the other side of the bay.
So this is their own app. San Francisco developed the app.
With partnership with a nonprofit. Yeah. And the next, and they use this SF Plant Finder to help plant locally native species according to bloom period. So if you know that you're supporting a certain butterfly and they come in, they emerge in April, then you might want to plant for them. So they have a lot of different things you can play with here. But they have something really interesting that they also have a nonprofit that worked with them. That's the next slide. And they have these routes. So they basically have different routes. They call it green connections, and it connects people with nature by improving access to parks and open space and encouraging the street design and to enhance urban ecology through native landscaping, stormwater plantings, and street trees. And so they have this list of guides, and you can find where you are in the city and click on one of those routes, and they have places along the route that includes parks and other neighborhood destinations, and each one has a key species or key habitat, and it tells you about the role of this as part of the larger urban ecosystem, and it helps you design, like if you have a house there and you have a little bit of backyard, maybe you'll use this to know what to plant. And they also provide information about species that may nest or breed in that area.
So is that in the same app or in the city website?
It's on, you can find it in the city website, but it's not the same app.
Okay. Oh, lots of information.
Yeah, they have different, it's interesting because cities approach it in so many ways. Mountain View has a beautiful plan, but it really is at the more the policy level. Whereas they left the development of things like this and plant palettes to the next step, and they're starting to work on that. So we'll see how that evolves. But different cities do different things, and so we'll have our own version. I mean, I'm happy to copy some of this.
Yeah, this is very interesting. Thanks so much.
Sure,
Commissioner Brown.
Nothing.
I just want to, again, thanks for the presentation. You mentioned, let's see what was there. You know that I think you started mentioning about the term native, locally native, regionally native, functional, and climate adapted differently. So, what definitions of locally native that they had ad hoc considering for Palo Alto, and then how would the proposed guidance address situations which locally native species may not be suitable for a particular soil, irrigation conditions, recreational use, or future climate use conditions?
We're probably going to look at locally native in terms of things that evolved in Santa Clara Valley and our foothills. So really kind of Bay Area or south of San Francisco, the area that is really shares climate and to a large extent seasons of when the rain falls and the soils. What we see is there is a lot of tension between people who feel that climate is changing and we don't know where it's going. And so let's plant things from everywhere and things that's the functional species. They may have some function in supporting some species of butterflies in that they have flowers or something, but they don't provide the baby food, which some of our speakers talk about. And so we want to make sure that that is included. And this tension happens in the urban forests as well, because people feel like, oh, if we brought trees from Southern California and we plant them here, they'll do better as the climate changes. This is an assumption. It's not actually, it just people want to do something, and they want to do something, they'll do things that sometimes are quite harmful. Bringing trees from somewhere else can bring all kinds of pests from somewhere else with them. The other thing that is that, let's plant drought-tolerant species. Many of the drought-tolerant species that come here actually flower in a different season. They come from Arizona when it rains in summer, or from other places of the world where and also usually from soils that have a lot more nutrients than California soils. So I don't know that we'll go to the level of developing planting palettes, but I think that's part of what we want to look at is how do we know that the plant fits this climate, and how do we make sure that it provides for the biodiversity? And one of the more interesting things I'm learning, and we can get into that at some point, is, trees, when you assume that if you bring a tree from Southern California, it will fit here better, what we find is that the local oaks, for example. If you get an oak from the south slope or the north slope, the amount of sun they get during the day is very different. Their hydrology is different. The amount of rain is, everything is different. And so you can work with the local species and allow them to evolve rather than say, oh, we'll solve the problem because we can bring something from Tucson. So that's sort of where we're going with this, but it's only just starting to touch that.
Okay. So the fact is that, Palo Alto is looking at a lot of housing is going to be happening here in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And it's probably a good opportunity to work with, the various contractors and so forth who will be building these homes and the design and sort of working to make sure that they're not bringing in
Yeah,
invasive
absolutely.
plants that could end up causing more harm than good. So with your with this, I guess, project sort of tag into that, and how would you be able to?
I don't know that we can recommend some educational follow-ups, but I think what we're trying to do is actually to say that developers of a new, they have to do a lot of things already. Like you have to have stormwater infrastructure. What you plant in your swales make a difference. Like how do you design those things? What do you plant along the path or right next to the house? And we have we're very fortunate that we have a lot of shrubs here that are really beautiful, don't take a lot of water. We just need to trim them a little less and they'll be fine.
Okay.
So we can provide some recommendations for the city to what to require or ask developers to do potentially. We didn't really plan to go into different policies, so I'm not sure we can go there.
Okay.
But we would just potentially make recommendations in general.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again for the ad hoc for the excellent presentation and supporting materials. So, thank you. All right. At this point, we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which I think is department reports. All right.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Sarah Robaselli, Division Manager for Community Services. This evening, I will be jumping into a few highlights on some recent recreation programs, parks and golf projects, as well as upcoming capital improvement projects. You advance to the next slide. Our 4th of July Summer Festival and Chili Cook-Off was another successful community event, celebrating America's 25th anniversary while bringing the community together. There were 11 teams participating this year in the Chili Cook-Off, including 4 returning teams and 7 new. Competing for the awards included People's Choice, Best Vegetarian, Best Decorations, and Most Spirited. We want to congratulate this year's Veg ER for Pets, who won first place. And thank you to the commissioners who were judges. We also want to extend our thanks and gratitude to staff, volunteers, sponsors, and participating teams for this year's success. Some of our upcoming events, if we look ahead, we have several upcoming just around the corner. National Night Out will take place a week from today on August 4th at Bull Park, giving residents an opportunity to meet first responders and enjoy family-friendly activities. Our family movie nights continue with Hoppers this Friday, July 30th, and we'll conclude our summer movie nights with Super Mario Galaxy Movie on August 14th. On the right-hand side of the previous slide, we also have our 42nd annual Moonlight Run, which will be held September 25th at our Baylands Athletic Center, and registration is currently open. This year, we will it's similar to last year due to the Tidegate project, we will have a 5K, 10K run, and will not have the half marathon. Okay. Moving on to summer camps. Summer camps are wrapping up just in 2 weeks remaining. This summer, Community Services has offered more than 320 camps, serving over 3,700 campers with revenue of approximately $1.85 million. Special interest camps, which are contracted camps, generate approximately $43,500 in revenue, which is up 4% in over last summer, while only one camp was canceled due to low enrollment. Our highest demand programs include woodworking, cooking, zoo camp, theater academy, Camp Kinetic, and Camp Palo Alto. Staff will continue to explore opportunities to expand some of these high demand programs for future years. We advance to the next. Staff and our golf liaison, Chair Freeman, recently visited Mariners Point Golf Center in Foster City to observe its 2-tier driving range and learn more about its operation. This visit provided an opportunity to see a comparable second deck driving range at a waterfront golf facility with similarities of Baylands setting at the Palo Alto Municipal our golf course. Staff observed the scale of the structure and user experience, and had a look at day-to-day operations to help inform our ongoing financial feasibility and ongoing operational evaluation of potential updates to our driving range improvements. Staff recently completed an installation of a new Greer Park entry sign. Many of the city's original wood signs are reaching their end of their service life, and maintaining them has become increasingly specialized and costly. This new sign system uses durable, low-maintenance panels, which on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see the wood posts preserved for the park's natural appearance while improving long-term stewardship. I would like to also just hang on this for a little bit because we've had a speaker earlier, and it sounds like maybe we'll also have a speaker just to provide a little bit more context about this. So I wasn't going to go into it, but I'll provide more information. Many of the city's original carved wood signs have reached their end of life. Our original fabricator has retired. This was about 2 years ago. Making the repairs increasingly specialized, we did find an alternative vendor who happens to be works on surfboards. So this became a very expensive, timely, and specialized process. Staff in turn has worked with several other departments and selected a high pressure laminate panel because its durability, UV protection, anti-graffiti resistant, while reducing some of our long-term maintenance costs. And remaining again with those redwood posts. This approach was an operational replacement rather than more of a policy decision as part of the updating of the city's park signs. As I mentioned, we coordinated with several departments to ensure the signs aligned with city branding standards, permitting requirements, and long-term maintenance objectives. And because this was a replacement of existing park asset using approval of an operational standard, it was not brought forward to the commission, for example. So if we move on to the next slide, Greer Park Skate Bowl restoration continues to make good progress. This project includes removing more than 30 years of graffiti buildup and repairing damaged concrete surfaces to restore the bowl's skateability, improving safety, and extending the life of the well-loved community facility. Staff is anticipating that the skate bowl will reopen in mid-August. Construction is underway to replace the existing 2-stall restrooms with a new 4-stall modular restroom at Mitchell Park. This project will better serve the heavy used area near the Magical Bridge Playground and the tennis and pickleball courts. Construction is expected to continue through September. During construction, there may be intermittent pathway closures and temporary parking restrictions with detours provided as needed. We'd also like to thank the Friends of Palo Alto Parks for funding a temporary portable restroom over the past year while this permanent solution moved forward. And my last slide is really just looking ahead on upcoming 2 projects that are scheduled to begin this upcoming fall. To the left-hand side of your screen, our open space off-road pathway CIP will fund the Adobe Loop Trail repaving. This is already a paved surface. So this is scheduled to be completed somewhere in between the September and November time frame. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, El Camino Park turf replacement is currently scheduled to run between August and October. Reopening in October, staff will continue to coordinate with user groups and provide updates on construction progress. That concludes my departmental report, and we'll open up for questions.
All right, thank you. This is a very thorough department report, as they all are. So I have a number of questions, but I'll ask one and then we'll circle back to me shortly. So on the, I was at Mitchell Park today, and I did see that the restroom project is in progress, and the signage notification to let people know what's happening with that, I thought was very appropriate. And the temporary facilities, I guess, will suffice until the work gets done. So good job with that. Kind of tagging in on this replacement park signs. As we know, neighborhood parks are very dear to the people who are in those neighborhoods. And I know you mentioned that this is more of an operational event that doesn't necessarily have to come to the Parks and Rec, but I think in the past, something of this nature has come to the Parks and Rec before, especially if it's going to impact the community as a whole. And we should definitely be made aware of it. So I know you're saying it's up. So how do you define, I guess, the difference between what's operational and what should be coming to the commission for feedback, but sounds like something like this, and it sounds like your intent is to replace all of the signs in the different parks. I know like Heritage Park, that sign wasn't that old, so I'm not sure why that was deemed to be removed. And then how's the decision made about the design and what's going to be replaced? I think it's just sounds like something that the community around those parks should have input into, or at least be made aware of why it's happening, rather than putting a sign in, installing a sign and then getting feedback after that. Just doesn't, this seems to be kind of different approach that we've taken on the commission before. Something like that has come to the commission. So I don't know how the decision was made that it's operational versus coming to the Parks and Rec Commission.
So I will just state that we've been providing updates regarding some of these sign replacements for throughout the past 2 years, and you've been seeing them within your departmental report. You have seen the Heritage Park sign in a previous departmental report. So the intent is to be transparent when these updates are taking place. There are quite a few that have been installed throughout the city. Again, these are replacing aging. Heritage Park became a park roughly 20 years ago. So it was a 20-year-old sign. Greer, you'll see, had a different, it wasn't a city standard. So it looked different than some of the others that you see around town. So that I'm unaware of, I guess, the process that has taken place previously in terms of sign review. But I can definitely look into that.
Yeah, I think it's something we should be to get our input on it. I mean, yeah, if it was in a department report, I think maybe it's something, I don't know. I don't remember seeing it, but maybe there's a lot of things happening. So I'll pass it on to other commissioners. Anyone else?
Wasn't the
Commissioner-
Tower Well site the same design for the new park? That's
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering, Tower, I remember the representation, opening, ceremony and et cetera, even if I didn't manage to attend. They seem to be a lot more low key. I didn't remember it was presented to us. Sort of echoing what Chair was saying. Tower definitely, because the change of name, et cetera, and it's a whole process was presented here, but not Greer, I don't think.
Okay, any other, Commissioner Kleinhaus?
Do we have like any function, someone who looks at aesthetics of what we install, whether it's a new bathroom or a sign or the new dock at Boronda Lake, which I've been hearing concerns with the visuals of this huge plastic structure. Is there some, we talked about the new dock. I didn't expect to see a big plastic structure. I thought it would be similar to what we have there. That's a wooden, and when you compare the one that's still there, the small one, to the new one, it's actually pretty striking. But different people would have different aesthetic sensitivities. Some don't mind the big plastic castle-looking structure with big orange poles, and some do. And I don't know, and the signs, the people at Heritage Park that are so concerned, they weren't asked. So, and maybe had they been asked, there would be an interest in working with the Palo Alto, with a Parks Foundation or something, to be able to retain or to fix an old sign. So I'm trying to understand the process of decision, because when it comes to me, to us here, I remember discussing the new dock, if that's what it's called, that structure. I just didn't know what it was going to look like. And definitely, if we had seen that picture, we would probably say, why don't you use native materials to this area like wood? So, and I understand it's always cheaper to do something that, that degrades the quality in a way.
I kind of agree. I didn't know there was a plastic structure. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
It's new. It's new, but I thought in a nature preserve we would be using natural materials that belong there, and at least look like they are. This, to me, that was a little, and the people who approached me, it was kind of striking. So I'm not sure where something is broken, that either we here at PRC or the public should have some exposure to the aesthetics of what is coming. So I guess it's a question.
Vice Chair Wei.
Yeah, I just did not know that's happening. Actually, I sort of echo that. It's aesthetic aside. There is a lot of reports now released about the harmness of plastic, whatever you're using, and the deck used to be wood. I'm sure it has alternative using wood material. Plastic causes a lot of cancer, a lot of pollution in a especially in the nature. I'm a bit concerned on that. I didn't know. I haven't been there for a while. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah, I do agree both with Chair and Commissioner Crownhouse about the process of how our park getting new signs, and especially the deck seem to be a bigger issue as well in terms of safety, health, and cost versus human health, which is important.
I don't want to speak specifically to the dock or the signage, but I do want to caution that the commission's role is not to speak on the specific operations, or not to direct staff on how to do their job. Staff is responsible for understanding the trade-offs regarding budget and signage, and they're trained professionals that have the knowledge and expertise to be able to manage those types of projects. Our charge is on planning and policy. And so if we want to look at the sign policy or for the city, I think we can request an informational update if there are public feedback on the sign design. I think we're certainly a venue for that, and as we have been tonight, and staff is hearing that feedback live, and I'm sure they will bring that back into future decision making. But I just want to get away from sort of micromanaging every aesthetic decision at the park, because it's going to make it impossible for them to do their work in a timely manner. So I think we want to be partners with staff and then allow them to go in their lane and expedite projects, but also being a venue for the public and for this commission to share our feedback and what we believe is best moving forward. So trying to find the right balance there.
Totally agree with that. And I, not saying that we as a commission should be making decisions from an operational perspective. I think we need to be made aware. And if we were made aware and we kind of glossed over it, then that's on us. But I think something like that, where it is going to, I think, generate public dialogue. If we think there's something that is going to generate public dialogue, and it's definitely under the purview of the Community Services Department, just making us aware of it to listen to our feedback, I think is probably appropriate.
Yeah, I agree on that. It's a policy.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Day.
Thank you, Sarah, for the report. I think what I heard from the residents and our commissioners is that we would like to see a balanced approach, a combination of staff efficiency and process transparency. Yeah. So I was hoping that it can come back to give us a clearer picture. On another note, I would like to ask this specific sign at Korea Park. It looks like it's being moved to another location instead of the original location, right?
Actually, if you bring up it, do you still have the PowerPoint? If you bring it up, actually, it's in a very similar location. It's you have a good eye. We actually moved, if you saw the previous, there is a no parking sign that was directly in its visibility. So we actually, it's in the same location, but we adjusted the no parking sign to the left of the new sign. So it can allow for full visibility of into the parking lot. So it's at the one entrance to the parking lot. And I think we've just adjusted, if you see the progress photos, you can kind of see the pole that has been adjusted over further, the top progress photos in the middle. You can see the tall pole that's cut off.
Yeah, yeah, I think I like that improvement to increase the visibility of the sign. And I also have a operational cost question, like how much does it cost to replace this sign with a new sign?
I don't have that number in front of me, but I'm happy to get back to you on that.
Sure, yeah, I just want to have a ballpark estimate of how big this project is. So thank you.
Vice Chair.
And-
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, I also have another question about the Mitchell Park restroom. Are we installing the same type of prefabricated restroom that we had at Caberly Track and Field?
Yes. I'm not sure if the design is the exact same because each restroom is more site specific, but it is that prefabricated unit. And it will, like Coverly, is a 4-stall.
Yeah, for stall with auto lock.
Yes.
I see. And in terms of pipeline sewage, since it's a replacement of existing restroom, so everything is in place, right?
There are some adjustments that are going to be made because it will not be exactly in the previous location. It's actually moving just north a bit from the existing 2-stall restroom, and that will be demoed and removed.
Great. And please remind me, did we go through public hearing or public surveys about the location?
Good question. This, because it's not a change in function, so we didn't do a park improvement ordinance for this. However, we did check to ensure it wasn't necessary, but we're just augmenting and it's in a similar footprint. But a contract was in place and that was approved on the city council's agenda. So it received full approval there.
I think it came to
And-
the Parks and Rec. 2 years. Or,
I don't believe it ever came here for a park improvement ordinance. That would normally be, but I guess to your point, Chair Freeman, it was included as the package in the CIP capital plan. So you have seen it in that discussion item and action item.
Yeah, last question. Did we use the same like bidding process with the same vendor who helped purchase or install the prefabricated restrooms?
So I am not for certain, but I know we go through, because this project is being managed by our Public Works Engineering team. I know we go through a full bidding process. I'm not sure if this specific went through a co-op, which it again goes through a public bidding process, but procurement was made to all the city standards that we adhere to. And then from there, we is approved by city council.
Thank you for that information. Very useful.
Commissioner Kleinhaus. I'm sorry, Commissioner Wade, Vice Chair.
Just a brief comment. I do like the new sign actually for Greer Park. It has the consistency for Tower Park. Good job. And also love the wood mush underneath. And coming back to the material of the dock, plastic dock, I never seen it what's it like. It's come back. It's the same policy issue, whether we build natural grass turf or hybrid turf. It's the same issue. We need to look into the deck. Well, the amount of people who are going to be using the deck and how much that impact human health, especially children who go there fishing, etc. So, and that probably needs to have a big consideration, look into the policy guideline on the material used for natural parks, which is also a nature preserve. Just a comment. And again, great job for the update. I love the July 4th event, and thanks, and also congratulations for the success for the summer camp and the increase in revenue. Thank you. Great work.
Commissioner Kleinhaus.
A couple of a comment and a question. The comment is that we wouldn't know about the sign if people had not complained about the signs. And obviously some parks have new signs and people are fine with them, and others have signs that people are not fine with them. So again, it's the question of the process. When you change something in a park, who makes what is the process to make decisions that affect how people feel about their park? And I think that is an important thing. And maybe there should be a policy that says that in nature preserves, you use natural materials, or we can think about that. But I do think that the fact that people call commissioners to raise concerns about new or replacement structures shows that there is a gap. I understand that there is more than one consideration here. I totally respect that. But there is some level of tension where people are really not happy and they're contacting us and here and in private saying, hey, what's going on? We don't like this. And we want people to feel that they belong in their parks. And we want them to feel, embraced when they go there. This is their place to relax, to enjoy. So it's really important that they don't feel offended by a new structure or replacement structure. So this is a comment, and maybe it's a discussion of how the decision is made, and probably not tonight, but it needs to be more public. And the other question is a question, and it's a very simple one. The new paving section on Adobe Creek Trail, please make sure it doesn't expand by any chance. It should stay where it's at now, not expand to either way. Just don't make it wider, because there is a tendency that I've seen on some trails when they repave them, they get bigger or they get longer. That's another thing. Make sure it ends where it's supposed to end and doesn't go any further. It turns after when you go on the trail along the Adobe Creek, right after the buildings, I think that the last one was one of the Google buildings, that's where the pavement ends, and it may be a little more. But anyway, make sure that it doesn't extend anywhere that's not paved already and doesn't become wider.
Okay, thank you. And my last comment is on the successful summer festival chili cook-off. It's staff, as always, I think this is like my 4th year there, and you could tell the amount of work that they did put into that. Organizing it, working with the various folks who were setting up the tents for the chili and coordinating. But a lot of work that goes into that, and just want to release a job well done to them. I think hopefully we communicated to them when I was there, but there's a lot of effort that goes into that, and they should be very well rewarded for a job well done. I mean, just I mean, it was one of those events that's very well attended, and people really appreciated being there and being there for a while. Kids were having fun, so it's an event that I think is one of the best events that the city does that really brings people out. And even the concerts in the park. I was at one Sunday at Mitchell Park that was very well attended by a lot of people, a very good band, and people just saying, "Hey, we really want more of these." And so keep up the good work on that. It's definitely very appreciated by people who are in attendance. So thank you for that.
Best in the Bay Area.
Okay, let's move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the ad hoc committees and liaison updates. Do I have any commissioners who?
Chair,
Okay,
can I add a little comment before we move on?
sure.
Yeah, I just like to share. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing our community events. And this Thursday evening at Cal Lab Live, I will be volunteering with Society Parts Delight to introduce our community the game of Mahjong. It's free, open to all, family friendly, and I'd love to help more neighbors to connect through this traditional game.
All right, let's move on to the ad hocs. Anyone?
We just did that.
Yeah, you guys did your updates. Anyone else have any? No. Well, I'll do mine. The garden liaison report. First of all, I want to take the opportunity to thank Eric for the fine work and his leadership on the continue on behalf of the community garden program. I think also there's a lot of folks who are working in the background, the community garden liaisons. Those guys should be very much recognized. So I think the next time you come before commission, it'd be nice to maybe bring some of those folks here too. With I mean, I'm at the garden at least once a week, and you could really see the change that's, at least the one garden I'm in anyway. See the change that's happening. I know that you've been able to reduce the wait list, been reduced by something like 45 residents compared to what it was, I think, a year or so ago. So good job on that. I think you had mentioned that there are 23 specifically waiting for Johnson Community Park, which is a smaller park where it's the turnover is a lot limited than some of the larger parks. So keep up the good work there. It's really a job well done. You also mentioned that the garden fees or I think you guys know that we do have garden fees that are charged. There's like $100 per square foot. And that's also a refundable deposit of I'm not sure how we came up with the amount of $222 for new gardeners, and that seems to be very well accepted. So it's a program like our chili cook-off, I think, is well recognized as a really plus for the city. And then staff is also mentioning gathering feedback from the garden liaisons to update and clarify the community garden guidelines. And so I assume that will be coming to the commission at some point in time to get our feedback on that. So thank you for the work that's being done on that as well. The other at LS I'm on, so the golf update, and Sarah just kind of talked a little bit about that, but it was nice to be able to visualize what is happening in some other cities, and Guam is starting to really put the work together to come back to the commission with hopefully a very good proposal. But keep in mind, this is something that was presented to us about 2.5 years ago with First Tee in attendance about looking at the second deck and looking at an area to expand for for First Tee. So they are tied in together, and this is potentially a good revenue generated for the city that will pay off, I think, for itself in the long term. So let's keep our minds open to that possibility. And then Lon will be coming back to us hopefully in about a year or so with a very solid proposal and looking at the cost benefit analysis of actually doing something like this and actually presenting it to the city council eventually for approval. So we'll give you more information about that as it becomes available. And then Commissioner Brown and I met with Adam to kind of get an update on what's happening with the, what the pickleball and tennis and sort of what our next steps are. And Adam just wanted to give us kind of an update. There's been a lot of recent expansions that have been happening in some of our neighboring cities, which I think has taken a little bit of pressure off of some of the Mitchell Park facilities, but we're still looking at Adam and staff are still looking at ways in which we can continue to support the pickleball program. So we'll keep that in the forefront of and keep giving you updates on that. I don't know, Commissioner Brown, if you have anything you want to add to that.
No, just that we heard the commission's feedback and from the public at the meeting and just incorporating to move forward.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments on ad hoc or liaisons? If not, meeting adjourned. Oh, I'm sorry.
Actually, yeah, there's still one more virtual Zoom.
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and go with that.
Okay, Rebecca N is our only speaker left on Zoom here. And whenever you're ready, Rebecca.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone on the commission, and thank you for your time. So I don't bel I walk by is this regarding the sign again? I walk by that, I used to walk by that sign every day. It was in great condition. It was a beautifully carved sign. It was, looked expensive. And it looked like it was, made of wood and carved, and it has been replaced with something really ugly, a plastic board, that looks like it just had like pixelated print job on it. Like it looks like something like someone took a poster board from Kinko's and just printed a really rough thing for a high school project. That's the difference to me. And I mean, it was a very nice, expensive thing to a very cheap thing that looks like it doesn't belong in the community. It doesn't match the community. And that was a very shock to see that reduction in quality. And it's really sad too. In order to keep our place nice, because it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of making sure things don't end up becoming overlooked. Something like this happening was just clearly a bad judgment situation where bad judgment took over, or it wasn't a great judgment call. I disagree with Commissioner Brown. I don't agree that this is not in the purview of the commission. This is a policy change of changing the signs to something that is truly ugly. And I really hope that the continuing changing of these signs, if there's any of them left, can be halted, because it's really just a really bad look. The new signs just look terrible. And also, I really do believe that it is really important. I don't agree that the commission shouldn't be able to review this. They should absolutely be able to vet this, so that this moment of this lack of judgment that occurred doesn't occur. Because I know that if the commissioner saw it, and they could see the difference, a stark difference between something hand carved made of solid wood to something plastic with print, like printed pixelated image, is obviously we're losing out on something, especially when these signs were in really great condition, and didn't have to be. I really appreciate again your time. Thank you so much for your service, and thank you for listening to me today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to commissioner questions, comments, and announcements of future meetings and agendas. Sarah.
Two upcoming items that we are anticipating for your next meeting is a park improvement ordinance for Foothills Improvement Plan. And something that, if ambitious, but I believe we may have another informational update for the playground synthetic turf use policy efforts that could come to the commission for an update. This again is working your work plan. So just trying to achieve that work plan that has been approved by City Council. That is an effort. And then September right now, we have a meeting and discussion. There will be a park improvement ordinance for Eleanor Party Park restroom, which will take place. I'm not sure if we'll get there in September because Mitchell Park restroom has to finish, but that's an upcoming item that I have calendared too.
Okay. Any comments, other comments from the commissioners of interest that you'd like the rest of the commission to be aware of? Okay. If not, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.